Hey everyone, I'm Trevor and Merry Christmas. I know it's only November, but yeah, we decorated for Christmas. And today we're going to be talking about DVC, the cost of DVC, doing some in-depth analysis breakdowns. Obviously, you probably saw the Disney Vacation Club video that I put out a couple of days ago. There seemed to be a lot of interest in this topic, and so I thought we would continue it and math the math for you. Help the math make sense, help you figure out if Disney Vacation Club is worth it for you or not. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to go through several different scenarios. We're going to go through an Aulani scenario, start off with a Disneyland scenario. We're going to go through a Walt Disney World scenario, a couple of Walt Disney World scenarios, help you determine if you're interested in a Disney Vacation Club, how many points you need, how much it's going to cost you, and when you can expect to break even. And we are just going to dive right into this. So what we've pulled up here is the Disneyland Hotel on the Disneyland website. And the reason for that is because if you want to make Disney Vacation Club work for you at Disneyland particularly, the equation is a little bit harder to stretch. You have to basically have already been staying in one of the three Disney hotels. That is the Disneyland Hotel, the Pixar Place Hotel, or the Grand Californian Hotel. If you are staying off property, unless you are staying at one of the most expensive hotels like the Westin, then the chances are that you are not going to be able to make this equation work. Disney World is a little bit differently, and we'll look at Disney World in just a little bit, but I know most of you are Disneyland viewers, so I want to try to go through that first. So what we're looking at here is the price for 5 nights at the Disneyland Hotel over Christmas. Checking in Sunday, December 21st, checking out Friday, December 26th. Again, that's 5 nights. I would assume that you're probably going to do a 4-day ticket if that is the case, or you might do 5 if you have a late flight, or maybe you're driving home. So it's just, we picked 5 nights because it's going to be the easiest to work with the Disney Vacation Club. So what we are looking at here is a base subtotal of $3,800 and $3,800. And then you have a tax down here of $652. And the tax is pretty ridiculous. It's almost 20%. And that is because of basically a hotel resort tax fee for the Anaheim area, and you're going to see these taxes for Disney Vacation Club as well, called the transient tax. This is a cash price that you're going to have to pay every single visit on top of your points. This only applies to the Disneyland Hotel and Aulani. Every other Disney Vacation Club property, including the Grand Californian Hotel, does not have these transient taxes. It is not at the Grand Californian because those taxes are built in to the cost of ownership for people who specifically own at that hotel. You will pick a particular hotel to own at, and your home resort will grant you 11 months booking. You can book as far as 11 months out. Every other hotel, you have to wait till the 7-month mark. So picking a home resort is advantageous to you to get that 11-month booking area. And so people who own at the Grand Californian Hotel have already paid that transient tax. It's built into their fees. You cannot own at the Grand Californian Hotel anymore unless you purchase resale. And that is because they have very few rooms available, and so they no longer sell contracts there. You can still stay at the Grand Californian Hotel. You just have to do so at the 7-month booking mark, and there might not be anything available because of how few rooms there are. So that's something else to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that you won't ever get to stay there, but if you do get the chance to stay there on Disney Vacation Club, you will not have to pay any transient taxes because, again, they are baked into the cost of ownership for the people who specifically own there. And we are just going to write this down on our whiteboard here, $4,488.12. We don't particularly care about the 12 cents, so I probably won't include that. But this is the cash price. And again, this is for 5 nights. And I don't know if that's an abbreviation or not, but that's the one that we're going to go with here. And so $4,400 is our cash price for 5 nights. Now we need to check out how many points it's going to cost us to stay for the same 5 nights. So we're over here at Disney Vacation Club's website, and we're on the Destinations tab in case you're curious. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just look up the Disneyland Hotel, the villas at the Disneyland Hotel, and then we're going to view their points chart. And this points chart is going to show us just how many points we need. And you can do this for any time of the year to check out points. As you can see, the beginning of December is cheaper than the week of Christmas and New Year's. So that's why we did this, to see how expensive it would be for this particular 5-night time period. And for the Duo Studios, it's 130 points. That's only for 2 people. If you have a family of 4, we're just going to go with the nuclear family of 4, you are going to be staying at least a deluxe studio. And the preferred view is 155 points. But you don't need a preferred view. You can stay as low as a standard view for 140 points. So it's a difference of 15 points. What if the standard view is completely booked up and you can't book a standard view? Just assume that you're going to be stuck in a preferred view. So you're going to need 155 points. We're not worried about those 5 points because you can purchase one-time use points at $20 a point. So for an extra $100, you'll be able to cover the difference. Or you can borrow or you can roll over. There's things that you can do. We'll talk about those in a little bit as well. But 155 points, let's just go. And, you know, because it also allows you to book standard, and maybe if you own at the Disneyland Hotel and you can book at 11 months, you'll be able to grab a standard view, no problem. And so let's just go with the cheapest option. So we're going over to their cost of membership page now, and this is the 3 things that go into the cost of membership. You have a one-time initial upfront cost, which is the purchase price of $235 per point. The closing costs, which start at $393, and then annual dues, which you are going to pay every single year. So let's scroll down, and you'll see the available home resorts. These are the resorts that they are currently selling, and there are some discounts because there's an offer right now that goes through December 10th. So we are going to scroll all the way over here to 150 points, and the villas at the Disneyland Hotel are going to give us this breakdown. It says that the purchase price is $36,750, and that is because the cost for the Disneyland Hotel specifically is $245 per point. You'll notice that every other hotel is $235. So the Disneyland Hotel costs a little bit more. And the purchase price is $36,000. The closing cost is $396, and you'll notice that the closing costs for the different resorts are a little higher. Like this one for the Riviera is $895 or $634 for Aulani. So the Disneyland Hotel closing costs are a little bit lower, and then you are going to save because of their offer. You're going to save $2,100. Now, if you were to purchase 200 points instead, the price break is a lot higher. In fact, the price break is double the amount of points. Double the dollar amount. I think it's $11 per point that you save at 150, and it's $22 per point that you save at 200. And then, of course, because you're buying an extra 50 points, the price break is going to be $5,600. So if you're looking at 200 points, just going straight for 200 is going to maximize your savings in terms of the offer that's going on. But we're going to go back down to 150 points right now. And, of course, it didn't update, so let's get it to update. There we go. 36,000 minus the 2,100 is going to be a one-time cost of $35,000. Or don't do financing. Just please don't do financing. It's going to cost you nearly like $70,000 plus after 10 or 15 years. You just stick with the $35,000. If you can't afford $35,000 up front, save up the money until you can. Or Disney Vacation Club is just simply not going to be for you. That's the bottom line. If you have to finance it, you are going to lose. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You are going to lose. So the additional recurring costs, and these are your annual dues, are $122.88 per month. And if we take a look at 122, and I'm just pulling up the calculator here on the computer, 88 times 12 months, you are looking at specifically $1,474 per year. So we're going to go back over here to the whiteboard now, and the cost and this is our baseline, okay, the cash price. This is what you're paying already, right, for the 5-night trip. This is what you're paying. So we're trying to figure out how much money we're saving with Disney Vacation Club. First thing that we're going to do, assuming that you visit Disneyland once per year, is we are going to subtract the annual dues of $1,474. So $3,014 is now what you are currently saving every single year, because all you're doing is paying these annual dues. And again, these are the dues. You're only paying the annual dues after the initial buy-in cost. And this is what you would have paid for the year. So you paid the annual dues. You still have to pay this no matter what. And then you are paying this cash price. You are left with $3,014. But that's not all. Okay, that's not all. Remember, we mentioned the transient tax. Now we're back over here on the computer, and we are looking at the transient tax costs. And this is a really big confusing chart, I know, but you are specifically looking for our week that we are going at Christmas, which is this bottom line here, and you are specifically looking for the studio. And we just want the standard view, and this is kind of high, right? What we're looking at for Sunday to Thursday is $82 a night. That's correct, $82 a night for the deluxe studio standard view. If you're to come in January, it's only $38 a night. So for a single night, you pay 38 bucks. It's not terrible, right? But this is gonna get you, okay? $82, $82. And this is just, actually we're not staying a Friday or Saturday at all. So it's just $82.90 times 5 nights. And that's going to be $414. So we're going to come back over here to the whiteboard and we're putting in $414. And we are going to subtract this, $2,600. This is how much you are saving every single year over the cash price because you paid your dues and now you paid your transient tax. Okay, so dues and transient tax, and this is your amount saved over the cash price. Remember, cash price, if you were to book the hotel anyway, you're paying this anyway. DVC dues, DVC transient tax, total amount saved over cash price. Now, your total buy-in was $35,000. Okay, $35,000 and $35,046. So what we need to do is take these two numbers into each other, and I'm just going to do that over here on the computer because it's going to be easier. If we take $35,046 divided by 2,600, your break-even point is 13.47 years. Okay? Now, the Disneyland Hotel contract currently has 48 years on it. So if you plan to visit the Disneyland Hotel once per year for the next 48 years, and you can pass this down to your kids or grandkids or whatever, you plan to visit the Disneyland Hotel at least once per year for the next 48 years. Then after 13.47 years, you will have broken even, which means for the remaining, just roughly, 35 years, you are saving $2,600. So again, we're going back here, 35 times $2,600. Your total amount saved now is sitting at $91,000 over the life of the contract. Because it took you 13 years to break even, now you're saving $91,000 over the life of this 48-year contract. Does that make sense? Okay, we're not done. So now we are going to begin to look at the rate at which these prices are going to begin to rise on you, because your annual dues will go up every single year, but so will the cash price that you would have been paying had you not signed up for DVC. So let's go ahead and start off with the dues. They raise an average of about 5% per year. So if we take this amount and times it by 1.05, but I don't want to look at just 1 year, I'm going to look 6 years into the future, and there's a reason for that in just a second. So if I take this 1888 and I times it by 1.05, doing this off the camera here, and we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, then the amount that it is going to be 6 years from now in 2031 is going to be $2,500. And this is, of course, going to include the transient tax. I don't know if the transient tax is going to increase at the same rate as the dues do, but the annual dues raise at about 5%. So this is the amount that we can expect in 2031. But the cash price, so this is the amount, the average per night with the transient tax built in is $897, because remember, this is a 5-night stay, so we took this and we divided it by 5, and this is the amount that we got. Now, 6 years ago in 2019, I looked at staying at the Disneyland Hotel, and I was going to book with a Magic Key discount, and it was about $350 for whatever date that I was particularly looking at. And I thought that's a really, really drastic difference from $900. So what I did is I did some sleuthing, found the highest price that this would generally be back in 2019, and I didn't have the exact dates, of course, as this trip, but I did find a fairly high price, factoring in the potential transient tax, and what we got was roughly $600, okay? Roughly $600 a night is what I could have expected during a very busy time of the year, such as Christmas. So 6 years, look at the difference here. It's gone up by about $300 or 50%, okay? It's gone up about 50% in 6 years. So forecasting 50%, we're just going to take 900, going to round it up there. Forecasting 50%, which is going to be times 1.5. That gives us $1,350 a night. $1,350 a night, factoring 6 years into the future at 2031. That sounds a little bit ridiculous, right? A little bit ridiculous. So let's just go ahead and cross this out and instead do it for $1,200 a night, because that's the same $300 increase. So this went from $600 to $900. We're going from $900 to $1,200 in 6 years. That seems reasonable, right? $1,200 times 5, an even $6,000 for your entire 5-night trip. So that means that from this price to this price, it has gone up $1,600 for the trip. And this price has gone from $1,800 to $2,500, and let's just make this $1,900. So it went up roughly $600. $650. Let's just say $650. It went up $650, and this went up $1,600. This is a $1,000 difference. Do you see this? Your dues went up, yes. Right? So did the transient tax. It went up $650 over the course of 6 years. But the cash price that you would still be paying if you were already visiting the Disneyland Hotel regularly went up $1,600 in the same time frame. Okay, so that's, again, a $1,000 gap. The gap from $4,400 to $1,800, right? That's the gap you're paying right now, but this is the gap 6 years from now, which is $3,500. $3,500 difference here, and this one is like $2,500 difference. So there's an extra $1,000 difference. You will save money in the long run with Disney Vacation Club if you are visiting Disneyland regularly and staying at the Disneyland Hotel. Yes, dues go up, okay? Dues go up. But again, so does the cash price. So say you are not going to come over Christmas break. Say you're going to come over the middle of January because it's much, much cheaper, okay? So you're going to come for 5 nights. We're going to do the same 5 nights. We're going to do the same Sunday through a Friday. In fact, let's not do Sunday through Friday. Let's do Tuesday through Sunday, because that's going to get the Friday and the Saturday times in there, okay? Friday, Saturday are slightly more expensive points. Look at this, just 71 points for you to visit 5 nights in January, 71. So let's just zoom ahead again to, say, the month of September. Let's do the Tuesday thing. Tuesday to Sunday. 81 points. Okay, there you go. You can come twice in a year with 150 points at a deluxe studio and a standard view, once in January, once in September. You might burn all the points at Christmas, or you can come twice, once in January, once in September, with cheaper times of year with better points. So you see what we're getting at here? Maybe you want a preferred view. The price point now is 98 points. Okay, and let's go back to January. And we're just going to pick, we are going to pick the cheaper price point this time. 75 points. 98 points and 78 points, or 75 points. Okay, what if we did 4 nights? 60. Okay, 98 and 60. All right, that's closer, right? That's just 158 points. 158 points means that you need to purchase 8 one-time use points if you want 1 4-night stay and 1 5-night stay in preferred views. So you can still do 2 different stays. Now we're going to show you how we decided to purchase Disney Vacation Club and how it works for us. So when we go to Walt Disney World, we regularly stay at the Caribbean Beach Resort. And the price for 7 nights at the Caribbean Beach Resort over Christmas is $2,751, and that is after their seasonal discount, okay? Because that's what you want to factor in, what you're actually paying. So don't take the rack rate, you have to take the seasonal discount. So if you go whenever there's seasonal discounts, factor that in. Again, Caribbean Beach, CBR for 7 nights, okay? Caribbean Beach for 7 nights. Then we bought into the Riviera Resort, and the Riviera Resort is right there located at Caribbean Beach. And so we bought 150 points. For 150 points, our annual dues, by the way, the annual dues are based on cost per point. So if you have 100 points, the annual dues are less. If you have 300 points, the annual dues are more. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but we're mentioning it now. So my annual dues for a Caribbean, or for a Riviera, which is a little cheaper, is $12.95, okay? So this is the price difference for me, $14.56. This is the amount that we are saving each year over, because this is, remember, our DVC dues. This is how much I'm paying per year. This is how much my cash price would have been. And my buy-in came out to about $7.50, because the closing costs were actually a little cheaper than it says. So $33,750 divided by $14.56 is 23 years. Okay, 23 years for the break-even point. The contract length is 45 years. So that means that I've got 22 years of having savings. This isn't great, right? I mean, this isn't great. What that means is that I'm basically getting a free upgrade to Deluxe. I mean, I'm saving money, and after 23 years, I'm going to break even. But essentially, I'm getting an upgrade to Deluxe. So let's run the Deluxe numbers now to see exactly how much money I'm saving over Deluxe. So I just looked up all the numbers, again, crunching them off screen so don't waste your time. The cost to stay at Riviera right now for 7 nights. This is Riviera Resort for 7 nights. And this is actually in June, not at Christmas, because there was no availability at Christmas for me to price out Christmas. This is in June, which would be the other time of year that we would look at traveling. It's typically it's cheaper than Christmas, so this is the cheaper amount. All right, and remember, our annual dues to stay at the Riviera on DVC is significantly better. So my savings is $4,598. And again, if we take the roughly $33,750 that I paid in, divided by $45.98, now my break even is 7 years. 7 years, okay? And 45 years left on the contract. It means that for 38 years, I'm saving this much money. The reason why this is bad math is because I'm not staying at the Riviera right now anyway. Does that make sense? I've never stayed at a deluxe resort at Walt Disney World. I've never paid those prices. And I don't anticipate, without DVC, I don't anticipate ever staying deluxe. At least not for a full 7-day stay. I might stay at Pop Century for 5 nights and Animal Kingdom Lodge for 2 nights. But so this is why this is bad math. People do this and they're like, oh look, it looks great. This is bad math. But I'm just showing you the numbers. These are the realistic ones, okay? 23 years, because Caribbean Beach is what I'm already paying for anyway. This is what I normally stay at, and I can still make it work. I'm still saving money. It's not as good as this, but I'm still saving money, right? So, why did we choose to do it? Because 23 years is a long time. It's only been 12 years since I did the first DVC pitch. This is a full double the length. I mean, my James is 11. He's going to be 34 years old. He's going to be just a little bit younger than I am right now. By the time we even break even. That sounds insane, right? There's a whole lot of life in 23 years. But we changed something a couple of years ago. We said this in our video. we changed something. We started going to Aulani. So let's run the Aulani numbers. So I've done some of the work here for you already, so you don't have to watch me write it out. The cost for Aulani for 5 nights after a general, and this is in the end of May, last week of May, over Memorial Day, when we typically travel. This is for 5 nights because we usually only go 5 nights to Aulani. This is for an ocean view room, deluxe studio ocean view room, which is the room we already purchased. We actually purchased a DVC room when we go, and this is the rate for it. After a 30% discount, which they usually offer, they're not currently offering those sales right now, but I factored that into the price because I wanted to be realistic. So $46, $44, and this is what we have paid. Actually, we paid about $4,000 last time. Gone up $600 from last year to this year. So these are my annual dues, and we're gonna subtract that again. That we need to start there, and we are looking at $3,349. However, we have to, don't forget the transient tax, and the transient tax, that, remember, there's no transient tax at Riviera, which is why we did not do transient tax there. And this is going to be $3,262. This is how much we save every single year. Remember, we paid $33,750 after some discounts and things. So these numbers are pretty close. I mean, I'm not going to do the exact math, but it's about 10 years, okay? About 10 years. So that's if we were to visit Aulani every single year. So over a 2-year time period, if we take the $3,200 that we save at Aulani and the $1,400 that we save at Walt Disney World, and we add it together, we're looking at a savings of $4,600 every 2 years. That means our break-even point, and you can't see this math on the screen, is 14.6 years. That's our break-even point. And again, that doesn't factor in that the cash price on these places is going to increase faster than my dues. The cash price for Aulani went up $600 over last year. The dues have only gone up maybe, what? $80. So that's a $500 difference from this year to next year. So $500, $500, $500, $500, $800, $900, $1,000. It's definitely going to be less than 14 years. And remember, the length of my contract, because I bought in at Riviera, is 45 years. So I get 30 years of, at least $1,500 to $3,000 money savings. It's a lot of savings. Okay, $2,300 a year savings average times 30 years. I'm saving $69,000, and the numbers are actually much higher than that because the gap's going to get even wider. All you have to do is talk to current DVC owners who have owned for at least 15 years, and they'll tell you what they bought and how much it cost back then versus how much it costs back now. They're so glad that they bought 15 years ago because that they're going on vacations significantly cheaper than they were before. Now, let's talk about the resale market, okay? Resale. If I wanted to get into Aulani, where is it? Over here. Resale for 150 points, because that's how much I was going to be purchasing. That's how much I did purchase at Riviera. We're just going to look at this. These are the current listings for Aulani, and you can see 160 points is pretty close to 150. We're looking at the price per point. This is the lowest price per point, actually buying 200 for $17,000, 200 points with a used year in September. Now, this contract is stripped. What does that mean? A stripped contract means that they've already used the points. If you take a look here, it says 2025, 0 points. So the use year is September, which means that they received points in September of 2025. And so the fact that they have already used those 200 points would be used or be eligible from September 2025 to September 2026. So if you wanted to travel in May of 2026, they've already stripped your September 2025 use year points. You'll get 200 more points in September of 2026 to be used from September 2026 to September 2027. They've stripped those as well. They've stripped those points. They're gone. So you will not get points until September of 2027 buying this contract. You'll notice that a lot of resale points, the reason why they're so cheap, or resale contracts, is because they are stripped. Now this one's pretty decent, $102 per point, 160 points. There's none for 2025, but they have banked them. They've banked quite a lot of them for, they banked 100 points, 103 points for 2026. Again, there's a whole stipulations with banking and borrowing that I'm not going to get into in this video, but the point being that you could buy 160 points for $16,000. If we go back to the cost per membership screen and we input 160 points here, this is the cost that you would pay direct, $36,000. Now your annual dues are going to be the same. Resale was $16,000. That's $20,000 cheaper. $20,000 cheaper. That is insane, right? Insane. Insanely cheaper. So let's go back to our whiteboard. And the Aulani, remember, the dues are the same, annual dues are the same, and the cost after transient tax for 5 nights is still $32.62, right? That has stayed the same. But our cost to buy in now, instead of being $33,000 at the Riviera, is $16,000 resale. And actually, the dues are going to be a little bit higher because it's an extra 10 points. It's 160 points, but it's pretty close. So we'll keep the number the same. So taking this into this, now this is just 5 years, okay? The break even is 5 years on a resale contract. Much, much better than 14 years. 5 years. That is, I mean, 10 years. It was 10 years if we did Aulani every single year and we never did Walt Disney World. Much, much better idea, right? The reason we did not purchase resale, and we've explained this in the other video, but I'll briefly go over it again, is because you do not get the full list of perks and benefits as a resale buyer. You are not a blue card holder, and you have to spend, or you have to buy at least 150 points direct to get the blue card benefits. So even people who buy direct at 100 will not get the blue card benefits. Now, you could add 50 on later, provided that the point at which you earn blue card benefits is still 150 when you do that, and then you will get the blue card benefits. But the blue card benefits are things like access to lounges. And I mean, the way that we looked at it, that as often as we are at Disneyland, and you can get free drinks and snacks at the lounges. If we pop in to the lounge once a week and we are getting beverages like, sodas, soft drinks, Powerades, whatever, and we're not paying for a bottle of Powerade at the park for $5, that's a savings of, with the 4 of us, $20 per visit. Over the course of 52 weeks, it is $1,000 in savings in drinks. Not to mention the snacks. Granted, they're not big snacks. They're like Rice Krispie treats and bags of Doritos and things like that. But there's also the benefit of being able to get discounts at all of the table service restaurants at Walt Disney World. Disney Visa card holders will get some discounts, but DVC members get discounts at all of them. I think there might be 1 or 2 missing. Don't quote me on that. But for the most part, you get 10% discount at all of them. It's like having an annual pass discount at Walt Disney World, which again is huge for us. There are other benefits too, like Moonlight Magic, which is an after-hours event. There's one coming up in February at Disney California Adventure. I mean, those usually, after-hours events at Disney run about $140 a person. Oh, I didn't even mention the biggest drawback of buying resale. The biggest drawback of buying resale is that you cannot book at the newer hotels. If you buy resale at Aulani, you cannot use your points at Riviera, Disneyland Hotel, the cabins at Fort Wilderness, and the upcoming Lakeshore Lodge, and any newer hotels that they build. You cannot use your resale points that way. That's a new change, I guess, since 2019. If you have resale that you bought before 2019, then that doesn't apply to you. You're grandfathered into being able to use your points because they didn't have that rule previously, and that might have affected your decision. But it absolutely is a rule now, and it's to protect the value of direct, basically. I mean, it's Disney's way way of protecting them making money, because they don't make any money on the resale market. But it also protects the value of direct points as well. And so if you want to be able to stay at the Disneyland Hotel and you want to purchase resale, you have to purchase resale at the Disneyland Hotel. And so if we go back to the Disneyland, DVC Resale Market, and we go to listings and we type in the Disneyland Hotel Villas, there is only one listing. Here it is, and it's $32,000 for 180 points. That is $180 per point, which is only $65 cheaper than the current listing. Here's the downside. If you buy resale at a place like the Disneyland Hotel in order to save money, you will be locked in as resale to only staying at the Disneyland Hotel. So this is how it works, okay? This is how it works. If you buy resale at one of the original 14 resorts, that's the Grand Californian, the Polynesian, the Bay Lake Tower, Copper Creek, Boulder Ridge, Animal Kingdom, Old Key West, Saratoga Springs, Aulani, Beach Club, Boardwalk, and obviously I'm missing a couple more in there. If you buy at one of the original 14 resale, you can use your resale points at any of the original 14 resorts. But if you buy resale at Riviera, you are locked in to Riviera only. And now I'm going to answer some viewer questions that popped up on my YouTube channel and the community posts when I asked you about Disney Vacation Club. So Jennifer says, what if you get tired of going? Okay, that's a big thing, right? What if you get tired of going to Disney all the time and you don't want to go every single year? Well, you can rent out your points. I have 150 points, okay? And I just checked out a couple of DVC rental stores, and they will give me $18 a point if somebody books at the Riviera, which is my home resort. They'll give me $16 a point if it's a standard resort. So I want to do this this math real quick here, and I'm gonna cheat, okay? Because I don't feel like actually running the math on here. So it is going to be 2,700 here, 2,400 over here. Now remember, my annual dues are $1,295, 14, and then over here it's going to be $1,105. I pay my annual dues. I rent my points out. Okay, this is for a home resort. I rent my points out. I pay my annual dues, and I pocket this as cash. So this goes essentially towards helping pay off my $33,000 buy-in, right? My $33,000 buy-in. So if I just rented and never used my points, it would take me 20 plus years. It's very similar to the Riviera, not the Caribbean beach numbers, all right? 23 years to break even on that. Please don't buy into DVC and only rent your points. Disney is cracking down on this, and they are basically like canceling contracts of people who, there are people who are buying like 10,000 points, and then they are renting them out as like an Airbnb. And they're not ever staying there, they're just trying to make cash. Disney is putting in policies to prevent this from happening. That doesn't mean you can't rent your points on an off year, but they want to see a pattern of you using it for personal use as well. So like, don't buy it and then immediately rent out your points for 5 straight years. You know, don't do that just to be safe, but you can rent your points, okay? And they're not going to penalize you for that. Don't worry about that. They're not going to cancel your contract because you rented your points for 1 year. You can rent your points out, okay? And you are going to make some money, $1,400 or $1,100 after your annual dues. And so it's okay if you skip a year. It really is. Now let's go ahead and talk about banking and borrowing. Now, I said we weren't going to talk about these details, and we won't cover the finer details of them, but we are going to give you an overarching overview of how it works. So my use year is October. I chose that, by the way. and I get 150 points every October, okay? Every October. So October of 2025, I was just given 150 points. I've actually already booked 60 of them at the Riviera for 3 nights next May, when we are 3 days before we go on our cruise. We were going to stay at Pop Century. I canceled that, got $750 back, and booked 60 points at the Riviera for 3 nights. And so, but say I didn't want to use them. I bought it today. I put a use here of October. I got my 2025 points, and I have, 150. But I don't plan to visit any time at all between October of 2025 and October of 2026. Say my next planned trip isn't until November of 2026, which is after October, and that's fine, right? And I know that I'm not going to be traveling in 2027. So what I can do is I can bank these points over here, and I can make this 150. And then if I know I'm not going to be traveling in 2027, I can borrow 150. And now I have 450 points to use in 2026, which means that I can take 2 trips, or I can take a whole week at a deluxe studio, and I can take a whole week in a 1-bedroom villa. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but a deluxe studio at the Riviera is it sleeps 5. It has a 5th sleeper. And so you can stay at a 1-bedroom for a trip. You could stay at you could take 3 trips, 3 separate trips in 2026 if you wanted, or you can stay in a 2-bedroom. And, I don't know what the 2-bedroom cost is. I'll quickly look at it. A 2-bedroom for a week over Christmas costs me 371 points. I just looked that up. So 371 out of this 450, I still have 80 left over. So maybe I don't pull the full 150. I only pull 70. I only pull 70, and then I have 80 left over here to use. I can bank this. I can take this points. So if I have 2027 here and 2028, I've got my 150 points, and I took 70 and used them, and then I am banking 80 points. So now I have 230 points for 2028. And I know my handwriting is terrible. I'm sorry. 230 points now over here in 2028. So you see how that works? Banking and borrowing. You could, in theory, go once every 3 years, and DVC will work for you. If you have 100 points, 100 points, and 100 points, you borrow 100, or you bank 100, you borrow 100, and then you would have 300 for one trip in 2026. And so that's, that's ways that you could do it. If that's the way that you want to run your vacations. You only want to go to Disney once every 3 years, maybe you want to go every other year. And again, you're not going to go this year, so what you're going to do is you're going to take this 150 and you're going to bank it over here, and then that's going to give you 300 total for 2026, and then 0 over here, because you did that. And then you're going to take this 150 and you're going to bank it over here, and it's going to be 0, and then you're going to have a total of 300 over here. So now you've got 300 every other year to be able to use stuff. Maybe you don't need 300 points, okay? Then you buy 100, all right? You have 100, and then you bank it to 200. You bank it to 200. Makes sense? So now you go one 9-day trip a nice view, one 9-day trip and a nice view every other year. And your buy-in is only $24,000 direct. Your dues are, over 2 years, you're going to pay the 200 points worth of dues anyways if you bought 200 per year, but you only go every other year, so you can still make it work. You understand how we're going with this? You can absolutely use banking to help you out. Now, something that you need to be aware of is that you can only do this every 3 years. You can use 3 years worth of points all at once, and it has to be in that exact scenario that I showed you before, because banking points are only good for a year. What do I mean? If I took this 150 and I banked them to 2026, these 100 points right here have to be used by the end of 2026. I cannot bank these points into 2027. I can take these points and bank them into 2027. Okay? I can bank those ones, but these ones, they've already been banked. They have to be used by the end of 2026. They are stuck here, okay? I cannot take these 200 and roll them over and then take 300 and roll them over. It doesn't work that way. So I can't just bank for forever. These points that have come from 2025 must be used in 2026. And that's why you can take these points over here and you can borrow them back. But if you borrow the points, I believe, and I'm not 100% solid on this because I've never done it, but I believe if you borrow the points back, now the points have to be used in 2026. So you have to use that full 300 points here in 2026, okay? Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. That's the whole idea with banking and borrowing. Now, the next question I had was, how many points does it cost for a typical week? So let's just, run through a bunch of different Riviera scenarios here for you. Again, if you were to go Thanksgiving week, okay, let's the trip that we're about to take. We check in on the 20th, we check out the 27th. If I wanted to stay in a deluxe studio that sleeps 5 in the cheapest possible way, I'd need 141 points. If I couldn't get a resort view for whatever reason, a preferred view is 179 points. 179 points is 29 points over. Now, since I'm only using 60 this year, I am actually banking 90, so I will be able to stay preferred, which means that we will use 29 of those 90 points that I banked, and I will have 61 points left over that I'll be able to bank to the following year, because again, I'll use those 90 points first, and then the remaining 89 points will come out of my 150 from 2026. And so then I would have 61 points left over that I can bank into 2027. So that's a typical, one there. The other time of year that I tend to travel, again, I mentioned this, was end of May, beginning of June. So let's just look at June. And again, for a preferred view, if I wanted to stay for 8 nights, checking in on June 1st, checking out June 9th, it's 172 points. So it's an extra night, it's 8 nights, but it's 6 points cheaper because it's June instead of Thanksgiving. And so again, if I went with a resort view instead, I could actually stay 9 nights for 157 points. That's just 7 over my 150 I already have. If I purchase single-use points for $20 a point, that's 140 cash that I pay to be able to stay here for, the extra night, which is not bad. 140, that's cheaper than staying one night at an all-star hotel. So I don't mind paying the extra points if I have to for one night stay. How about Animal Kingdom? Everybody loves the Animal Kingdom Villas Jumbo House, and that's because it is one of the cheapest places that you could possibly stay. And so let's just go with our June one again, the June dates, because we were just looking at those. If I wanted to stay for 8 nights at the Jumbo House in a deluxe studio, this one only sleeps 4, not 5. Resort view is just 108 points. That's really cheap compared to, Riviera. But this disappears almost instantly. It's very popular, and you have to, basically this has to be your home resort if you're ever going to get this. If it's not your home resort, good luck. You are probably not going to get a resort view. Savannah view rooms, though, on the other hand, which is what I would want anyway, you can get those at 7 months. Just 132 points. See? 8 days. I could do 9 days at Animal Kingdom for 148 points. 9 days under my 150. I don't have to borrow any extra points. I get a Savannah view. It's a better view than a resort view. Why is resort view so coveted? Because it's cheaper points. They have to spend less points and they get to stay there. I would rather stay in a Savannah View room for 148 points. That's my personal preference. And that's 9 nights. That's great. 9 nights. If I were to pay rack rate there at $600 a night, and it might be even higher than that, I don't know, at $5,400. So again, I'm saving a lot of money. DVC, using those points. Those are just some things there. I've already shown the other resorts. Boardwalk Villas, it's 9 points. Boardwalk Villas over Christmas. Let's just say Boardwalk Villas over Christmas, okay? If I do the 19th through the 27th, because I would probably stay, several days. 128 points at Boardwalk Villas, but Boardwalk Villas is another one that's really hard to get because of the cheaper points. So what if I went with a garden or pool view? 167 points. So then I would have to either borrow 17 points from the next year, or I would have to buy 17 one-time use points, which would be $340, which again still isn't terrible. And so those are things that you can consider. The same person, Anthony, asked, can you buy it for Disney cruises? So let's look at the cruise that I'm going on, Bahamas cruise. And points charts, Bahamas cruise on the Disney Fantasy in May. So to save you the trouble of having to go through everything that I just went through, the chart that I'm looking at right now is the point cost for Disney Cruise for the Disney Fantasy sailing in May for 4 nights to the Bahamas. It's not quite the 5-night cruise that I picked. I can't find 5 nights very quickly on this chart, but I want you to know that it's 142 points per person, and additional people are about $85 a point. So 85, 85, and 85 is 255 points, plus 142 points is 397 points. So it's 397 points to go on one 4-night cruise with your points, which means if I have my 150 points, I'm going to have to use 3 years worth of points to go on one cruise. This cruise cost me well, again, it's a 4-nighter, not a 5-nighter. So let's say for a family of 4 that a 4-nighter is probably roughly $5,800. $5,800 is the cost that I would pay for 1 year's worth of deluxe hotels if I were paying the cash price. Paying the cash price on a cruise, but I'm having to use 3 years worth of points. So it's a bad idea. It's a bad conversion, okay? I hope I'm making that clear. For 3 years worth of points, I could stay at $15,000 worth of cash price for Walt Disney World Deluxe hotels, or just $5,800 for 3 years worth of points and a cruise line. So again, bad conversion. You really don't want to use the points for Disney Cruise Line. Can you? Yes. Do you want to? No. The DVC points are best utilized when staying at a hotel at either the Disneyland Resort, Walt Disney World, or Aulani. Another one of Anthony's questions was if you can only choose 5 resorts direct. Yes, just those 5 resorts that we looked at earlier. If you're buying resale, you can choose any number of resorts, just whatever resale contracts are available for you to purchase. Something that also to consider with resale is if the deal is too good. Before you can purchase, Disney has what they call the right of refusal. So somebody lists their property for sale, and you decide you want to buy it, and you put in the request and it gets approved. Before they can actually, you can actually buy it, the deal is going to go before Disney's eyes. And Disney says, this is too good of a deal. I don't want them to have this good of a deal. I'm going to buy the contract instead. And so Disney will spend the money to buy the contract from the seller that you would have spent, but instead the points go back to Disney instead of to somebody else. And I don't exactly know what they do with these points. I know that they reclaim points. They try to help ease congestion, because sometimes it's really difficult to book, and they want to ease congestion for other members. They'll buy back points. Sometimes they'll also buy back points to protect the value of direct again. So there's all sorts of reasons why they might buy points, and Disney does buy back contracts. So if you think the deal is too good to be true, there's a chance that Disney might actually buy it out from under you. And it's months-long process. The process to buy direct was handled in 2 to 3 hours. We took care of that when we were there. We had to sign some paperwork after the fact, but I mean, literally, I had points in my account 3 hours later. The resale, if you buy resale, it's like a 2 to 3 month long process. And so you will not get points for at least 2 to 3 more months. And, you know, just factor all of that in as well when you're thinking about the direct versus resale whole considerations. I think that's about it. This video has gone on for a very long time. And if you have additional questions about this cost breakdown and how all of this works, drop them in the comments. I'll try to do my best to help you out with this. I hope that we've given you enough tools in this video to price out your own trip. Again, the formula for pricing out whether DVC is worth it to you or not is to find the cash price of what you are already spending. Don't look at the cash price of the deluxe resorts that you're going to be staying at. Look at the cash price of what you are already spending at moderate hotels at Walt Disney World or at local area hotels here at Disneyland. If you're staying at the Disneyland properties already, again, Disneyland Hotel, Pixar Place, and Grand Californian, then DVC is probably going to be to your advantage. Take the cash price that you would have paid for your trips normally, subtract the annual dues, and then you will be left with how much you are saving per year, and then you divide that by the amount that you spent on your buy-in to find your break-even point. Realizing that every year dues are going to go up, but the cost to stay at those hotels is going to go up even more. And so actually your gap between dues and cost you would have spent in cash is going to widen and widen. So it will actually, your break-even point will be actually lower than what you initially work out, but, you know, take the conservative amount and just assume that the amount you save is going to be the same every year and you'll get your break-even point. I don't think there's anything else that we can say more on this topic, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you have not done so already. As I just said, drop any comments or questions that you have down below. I'm happy to answer them. Click this video to check out the DVC video that we were just talking about to see some footage of the Disneyland Hotel in the different rooms and more of why we bought DVC. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.